Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, here we are to continue my AFL 2023 3-game match reviews. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the middle three games from round 21, and those games are Hawthorn vs Collingwood, Geelong vs Port Adelaide and GWS vs Sydney. Hawthorn have created one of the, or if not the upset of the year, beating Collingwood by 32 points in the end. Saturday twilight footy at the MCG. Hawthorn 16-9, 105 to Collingwood 11-7, 73. What an upset to start off with. This is for the Hawks. Huge win. I knew they were going to claim some more scalps towards the end of the year. I thought last week versus St Kilda was one which they might have been able to have claimed, but this one is a huge upset. Collingwood all of a sudden go to a 2-game losing streak. They join Port Adelaide, who are on a bit of a losing streak now. There's a couple of the sides in that top area just struggling at the moment to get some wins on the board, but overall they're not going to take anything away from Hawthorn. What a brilliant win this was. They started off kicking the first 5 goals of the game, 4 goals to naught in the first term. They kicked their 5th early on in the second term. Only one more for that quarter, though, as Collingwood come back, and you do kind of think they might actually do enough to take the win there, but then they just, in the third quarter, that's where they really go bang. They kick 6 goals to 4, and then the final quarter, 4 more to 3. Player stats now, 160 fantasy for Sicily, who was huge. 125 for Nash, 106 for Day and Pendlebury, 105 for Newcomb, 104 for Crisp, 103 for Moore. Goals behind, 3 goals for Bruce and Elliott, as well as Ryan. 2 goals for Lewis, Moore, Morrison, DeGoey and McStay. Disposal now 37 for Sicily, who just had tons of the footy all day. He was just able to walk around, do whatever he wanted to out on the park. 31 for Nash, 29 for Day, 28 for Newcomb, 27 for Crisp, 26 for Wingard. Marks, 19 for Sicily, so again he could just patrol and just mark everything. 10 for Lewis, 9 for McDonald, Ward and Nash. Tackles, 7 for Pendlebury, 6 for Warple and Nash. Hit-outs, 39 for Reeves, 31 for Cameron, 10 for Kaczynski, 5 for McStay. Team stats now. And it was an inside 50 win for Hawthorn, 59-43. It's very rare to see a good side like Collingwood go inside 50 43 times. Nick Dacos also got heavily tagged as well. He only had the 5 touches for the day, and I didn't see the other Dacos. Didn't see Josh Dacos either. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Centre clearance, Collingwood got smashed. 18-3 centre clearances in favour of Hawthorn. Now, I have said this many times that Hawthorn are a great centre clearance side. I didn't realise they were this good. And yes, they had beaten some of the likes of the Western Bulldogs midfield, which was really good at centre clearance and all that, and they've beaten some really good midfields, but 18-3 centre clearances against against the best side in the competition, Collingwood, who are first on the ladder for a reason. That is a huge statistical win there for the Hawks. Their young midfield is coming up, and it is doing really well. They're already making some really good progress this year. They won contested and uncontested footy as well, did the Hawks. They smashed them in marks. Marks inside 50, 16-9 as well. Darcy Moore didn't get to do anything. They led for pretty much the whole game, laid more tackles inside. They're attacking 50 for a very young side. This is the good thing about having a young team, is that you can do some very good upsets like this, and this is just such a huge upset. Collingwood is not the only top side to be stumbling at the moment. Port Adelaide are also having their own issues as well, going down to the Cats at GMHBA Stadium. Geelong 14-13, 97. Port Adelaide 12-13, 85. Geelong win this one by 12 points at GMHBA Stadium. Now, this was a really cracking contest, and Port Adelaide had a couple of late outs of their own as well, with illness going through their team, and Geelong had Hawkins and Blitzards out as well. So this was a very undermanned game where both sides did have their team unders compared to what they'd like to be. But wow, what a good game of footy it was. It was a high-scoring game, 7 goals to 5, kicked in the opening term. Geelong were the better of the sides. It looked like when they just moved the ball, they were better. It always looked like Port Adelaide did struggle at times to keep up, but they still managed to stay in the game. 2 goals to 1 in the second quarter. That's where it dried up a little bit, but oh boy, the game was still heated. And then the third term, what a start for the Power. They kicked the opening 3 goals of the quarter. They only managed 1 more, but the Cats only managed 1 for that term as well. But Port Adelaide do kind of dominate in this quarter as well, even though the Cats do kick 4 behinds, but they do have their little chance. And then in the final quarter, they also kick just too many behinds. Port Adelaide, they kick the 2 goals, 5, and then Geelong still kick 4 behinds. They kick 4 goals, 4, so really high scoring last quarter, which in the end sees the Cats get over the line by 12 points, and that is huge for not only their finals hopes, but for other teams' finals hopes around them as well. That draw, that can really change everything as well. I'll be touching on another finals contender in just a moment. We're going through that a little bit later on, but 130 fantasy for Butters, who was huge. He was with him and Rosie and Horn-Francis moving through the middle. Those were the 3 players that were really on for Port Adelaide. They looked the most dangerous for sure of their players. 117 fantasy for Myers, who just is the goal assist king. Kicked 2 of his own as well. 109 fantasy for Rosie, 105 for Stanley, 100 for Horn-Francis. Goals for Hines, 4 goals for Henry and Rioli, who were huge. 3 for Power Pepper, 2 for Cameron, Myers, Marshall. Disposals, 30 for Butters, 27 for Rosie, 25 for Burton, 24 for Myers, 23 for Stewart and Horn-Francis. Marks, 10 for Myers and Marshall, 9 for Horn-Francis and Williams, 8 for Radigalia. And Butters tackles 8 for Rosie. Hit outs 31 for Stanley, 25 for Vicentini, who actually looks really good. He looks like he's developing at AFL level. 6 for Henry, 1 for Cameron. Team stats now, where it was the extra inside 54 Port Adelaide. They did go through a couple of periods where they had some really big numbers of inside 50s, but couldn't quite put it on the scoreboard. They also won clearance 28-35, centre clearances 12-13, Soviet clearances 16-22. The Cats won contested footy, Port Adelaide won uncontested footy. Marks inside 50 was relatively even, 16-19 in favour of Port. Port Adelaide also won marks. The Cats led for just over 3/4 of the contest. Port Adelaide did out-tackle them though, 45-67, 7-12 tackles as well for them inside their attacking 50, but in the end it's not quite enough to beat this really good Geelong side still, which are coming for finals, especially with how well they did in that last quarter to go from it's like they kicked a couple of goals late in that term and late in that third term, and then just came out in the last quarter, and they were the better of the sides in the last quarter, despite Port Adelaide looking good to start off with. Their response was brilliant, and it'll be interesting to see when they get their full team back. I still do feel like they can be damaging in finals, especially if they get finals at GMHBA. Sydney keeps its finals hopes alive in a huge derby win over the Giants at Giants Stadium, and it keeps their finals hopes alive, and it just knocks the Giants' finals hopes around a little bit. They've got Port Adelaide, Essendon and Carlton to come, 2 of the 3 being away, the only home game being against Essendon. It will be tough now for the Giants. They really kind of had to win this just to get a solid grasp on a spot in the top 8, because Carlton and Port Adelaide will be tough to beat, and Essendon as well will probably be tough to beat as well. But look, Sydney, huge win, and they can still make finals. They've got Gold Coast to come. They've got Melbourne in round 24, and then they've also got Adelaide. They do have some very winnable games in there, and they win this one by 11 points. Accuracy was the key, though. GWS 12-13-85 to Sydney 15-6-96. They were dead accurate with Sydney. 4 goals to the Giants, and then 5 goals straight in the first term for Sydney, and it was very similar to Geelong and Port Adelaide. It had the same kind of shootout, high-scoring pace, and the scores are pretty similar. The other game was 97-85, this one 96-85. But it was in that second quarter that the Giants just lost a little bit. It was 3-6. The Swans just started to kick away and had a really nice halftime lead. 3 goals to 2 in the third term, so the Giants do come back a little bit. But again, though, the margin does get out to about 20 points at the start of the last quarter, and they do just leave themselves with a little bit too far to come back. And then that goal in the late stages for the Swans is enough to seal the deal and get a huge win. And they're on a rampage now, Sydney. It's been the Giants from 15th, Carlton from 15th, them from 15th now, that have all managed to launch themselves up, and probably 2 of 3 of those teams will probably end up playing finals, maybe even all 3 potentially, depending on other results. But 141 fantasy for Tom Green, 132 for Goulden, who had a monster game, Errol Goulden, including one of the goals of the year. 117 fantasy for Mills, 114 for Briggs, 105 for Ward. Goals behinds, 4 goals for McLean, 3 for Green, who still was pretty good. 2 for Goulden, Hogan, Brown, Amati and Heaney. Disposals, 38 for Green, 32 for Goulden, 28 for Ash and Mills, 27 for Lloyd. Marks, 9 for Mills, 6 for Briggs and Haynes. Tackles, 10 for Green, that's Tom Green, 8 for Bedford. Hitouts, 28 for Briggs, 21 for Hickey, 11 for McLean, 8 for Keith, 3 for Amati. We go to team stats now, where it was the Giants that did dominate inside 50, 68-54, but the Swans were just pretty good when they went inside 50, in all honesty. The Giants did win centre clearances by +4. Stoppage clearances were all locked. The Giants won contested and uncontested footy as well as marks. The Swans did win marks inside 50 though, 9-11. The Swans did lead for most of the game, and despite the Giants out-tackling them only by 5 in the end, it's a really good performance here from Sydney. And look, they're still definitely they're still a chance for finals for sure. So we're going to go to the ladder in just a minute. We're going to go through the round that we've had so far. So the Western Bulldogs defeated Richmond by 55 on the Friday night. Essendon defeated West Coast by 1 point. Adelaide defeated Gold Coast by 28. And then, of course, the 3 games this one, Hawthorn defeated Collingwood by 32. Geelong defeated Port Adelaide by 12. And then Sydney defeated the Giants by 11. Now, to Sunday's fixtures, which may not look interesting, but for one club, oh boy, they are important. Port Adelaide, they are in second place at the moment, only temporarily, and they will probably end up losing it. Melbourne need to beat North Melbourne at Blundstone Arena, which is almost a certainty, but Alistair Clarkson will be welcomed back to coaching. Definitely pick of the day, St Kilda and Carlton at Marvel Stadium. Now, that game just got huge sort of ramifications for the finals and all that, and if St Kilda win, it might be enough to say they're in. They got Richmond next week in a huge 50-50 game, but if St Kilda do win this, I reckon that might be enough to beat them in, and they'll want to be playing really good, and they'll have to if they want to beat Carlton. Then the final game of the round is Fremantle and Brisbane in Perth, which again, that's still going to shake up the top 4 as well. So we're going to go to the ladder now, and we're going to see what has happened. So Collingwood again, missed opportunity, because teams like Brisbane and Melbourne will come. Port Adelaide missed opportunity, so the top 2 aren't winning. Brisbane and Melbourne will definitely win. I would almost see that one almost guaranteed. Brisbane should win in the West against Freo as well. So that's going to be huge, because if they both win, then they'll both go, like one of them will go up into second and third, and then Port will go down to 4th. The Western Bulldogs are in 5th at the moment, awaiting St Kilda's result now. If St Kilda do win, or how huge that is for their year, it would probably just about be enough for them to get in, just about, if they were to get the win. And then the Western Bulldogs, of course, waiting on their result. The Giants, missed opportunity for them. They could have really just about locked in a finals place as well. Geelong, huge win for them. And then Carlton, well, they need to win because they've got a huge chasing pack below them. But yeah, if they win, they'll go up into the top 8 because they'll go into 46. So they'll go into 5th, so that they can be a high riser of the rounds. But if not, though, it'll definitely open the door for more possibilities next round. Adelaide and Essendon do keep their seasons alive with huge wins. Adelaide probably more likely than Essendon due to their run home and due to their percentage. Richmond, Gold Coast, Freo are probably all done now, especially due to their poor percentages as well. But yeah, any win is any win is taken. Hawthorn, huge win, and they'll probably surprise a few more towards the later stage of the year. And then North Melbourne and West Coast as well are still yet to play. But yeah, activity for today is going to be around this top 4, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We'll have some activity. And then, of course, this 5th to 12th is just a huge must-watch. And we're just going to go and have a little cheeky look at next round. And, well, this one's just huge. Collingwood and Geelong. That one's just absolutely massive. North and Essendon, that's going to be a huge game as well. Sydney and Gold Coast, that's going to be huge for Sydney's finals hopes. Brisbane and Adelaide is going to be a big one. Carlton and Melbourne, that's going to be absolutely massive. The Western Derby, it's not going to have any finals ramifications on the line, but of course it's a Western Derby. So of course we know how important that is. Hawthorn and the Western Bulldogs at UPSETS Stadium, that's going to be another opportunity for Hawthorn to play spoiler. They go back down to Tassie. St Kilda and Richmond is probably one of the main shaping games of the round, especially for St Kilda. And then Port Adelaide and the Giants is also going to be a big one. But anyway, though, 3 cracking games here. More upsets in a season which has already had plenty of upsets. We had upsets left, right, and centre last round. And, well, we've already probably got 2, I reckon. Probably the Swans and Hawthorn are upsets. I don't really think there's any other games which were really upsets. But yeah, I wonder if there'll be any more today. But hopefully for tipping, hopefully not. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. See you guys and then miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys so much. Subscribe, run, Flame Footy out.